What's up guys, welcome to 2021. We made it. Thank you first of all to everyone who have subscribed. Last year we are overwhelmed by the amount of support that we are getting from everyone, so thank you so much for subscribes, comments, likes and everything else. We really do appreciate that, so keep that coming. If you haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button below and ring that bell for notifications next time we post a video. And yeah, let's get this going for 2021. So today, as you may have noticed by what I'm wearing, it's freezing out, so it is back to winter time in Canada. And we thought we would share with everyone our 6 tips for surviving your first Canadian winter. And on that note, we've actually headed out to Truro today, which is the first town we stayed in when we first arrived here. And particularly we are at Stanfield's right now, which is a long-standing maker of underwear, really. They basically make some base layer items and a couple other things that are really awesome. So we're here to check out their outlet store and stock up on some base layer. So we were not as successful as we wanted to be at the Stanfield's outlet store. Obviously all the good stuff is already taken, but normally you can find some really cool deals on base layer items and underwear and a couple kind of sweatshirts and toques that they've got. And the reason we wanted to go there is actually because of our first tip for surviving your first Canadian winter, and actually any Canadian winter, and that is to layer up. So wearing multiple layers is really useful when it is freezing outside, especially when you're not 100% prepared with winter gear yet. When we first arrived, we basically had all of our South African jackets, and whilst they are quite warm, it's not the same when it's minus 15 outside. So we used to layer up, and actually we still do. So I actually wear 2 layers of pants, and usually 3 or 4 layers on top, with my winter jacket being the last layer. It's one way that you can always be prepared. If you get a little bit hot, you can actually take one of the lower layers off and then still carry on and be fine for the rest of the day. Since we were in Truro, we quickly decided to come and check out Victoria Park. We never had a chance to come here when we were living here last year, and we've heard really good things. Obviously not the best time to do it, but it should still be really beautiful, so we're here to check it out. And that brings us to number 2 tip for surviving your first Canadian winter, and that is that mittens are warmer than gloves. So I made that mistake today. I didn't know that we would be out in the woods today. Otherwise I would have grabbed and buy mittens and brought them along. But basically mittens are warmer because your fingers are inside a little parcel of snuggliness, and it can stay warm because they kind of feeding off each other. So the body heat from your other fingers are keeping your other fingers warm basically. And if you have gloves, they are separated from each other and can't keep each other warm. Tip number 3 is to get a really good jacket and really good winter boots. So we actually hit the Columbia store on a 50% sale day and got very lucky, and we found waterproof and slip resistant winter boots, which are awesome, and I'm pretty sure we'll be wearing them for many years to come because we kind of invested in good quality boots off the bat, and so far our feet are very warm this year. A jacket as well is, if you can get a water repellent or waterproof and windproof jacket, your life will be a lot easier. So things are a lot better when you are dry and warm instead of wet and warm. So when it's even mildly snowy or rainy, I wear a windproof jacket as well because I get cold easily. So it's really worth it to invest in some good gear with regards to shoes and jackets when you first get here, to make sure that you can stay warm. Yeah, that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 of surviving your first Canadian winter is wool is your friend. So when it comes to base layer, try and get something with a high content of wool, because wool has really great wicking properties as well as odor resistance. So if you do get sweaty on, for example, a hike that you might be on, the wool will be a little bit better. The second best would be a synthetic that kind of mirrors the properties of wool, but those don't always have odor resistance. So it might be worth splurging a little for a really decent wool set, especially if you are like us and you love going out for walks and tend to spend a lot of time outdoors. The wool will definitely be worth it. That we can give is to be very careful of ice. Often there will be a black ice warning for when you're driving, but that also kind of applies if you are using public transit or if you walk a lot. Ice can be really scary and dangerous, and it is 100% slippery. Even if you are wearing non-slip shoes, you will most likely slip at some point. So it's really good to be careful of it at all times. And what's really scary about a lot of ice is you can't actually see it. It is almost impossible to spot if the rest of the ground is wet, because it'll just look like normal wet water, and sometimes it's ice. And then you will slip, which is not great. It's happened to both of us quite a few times, so just be careful if there's a warning out for ice, or if it's raining and the temperature drops suddenly, there will definitely be ice around. Yeah, so just be careful of that basically. And one way to kind of get around it is to buy crampons, which are like little metal studs that you can wrap around your shoes, whatever you're wearing, and then those will help you get a little bit of grip. But yeah, be careful of ice, and if you can, don't go out and don't drive. If you can avoid it at all, if there's a warning out. So we're wrapping up our quick visit to Truro, and I would say Victoria Park is really gorgeous and definitely worth a visit in any season. We're coming back in summer, I would say, to come and see what it's like in the summer, because I think it's going to be gorgeous, and there's a lot of hiking trails to do, which will be great to do when the pathways are maintained. Obviously they're not maintained during winter, so there's a lot of ice on the walkways, but it was really cool to see, and the stunning waterfall, which is not very far from the parking lot. So even if you're visiting in winter, definitely head to the waterfall. It's about 1 kilometer, maybe 1.5 kilometers if you also need to walk back, which you do. Yeah, so definitely worth a check even in winter time, and we'll definitely be back in summer for another visit. And now we are making our way back home, and yeah, we'll see you there. And we're back in Dartmouth and just dropped the car, and we're busy walking home. And that brings us to our final point or tip for surviving your first Canadian winter, and that is to wear a beanie at all times. A beanie is what we call it in South Africa, but here they call it a toque, and we actually have a lot of them, and some of them are double layer, which are really, really useful for days where it's cold, rainy, and has a lot of wind. It just helps to have that extra layer of warmth on your head. So yeah, always wrap up, and the plan is really to keep as much of your body as possible covered so that you don't lose body heat. And if most of your body is already covered up and you don't wear a hat, you can actually lose almost 10% of your body heat through your head. So it's always a good idea to wear a hat or a toque or a beanie or whatever you really prefer, but we like to do the double layer one when it's cold, and that seems to really help. And that's it from us for this one, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on our little adventure to Truro to go and see where we came from the first 2 weeks of our stay here in Canada. and checking out Victoria Park, which was really stunning. We're looking forward to doing that again in summer. And yeah, for learning our 6 tips on how to survive in Canada for your first winter. We're still learning a lot, but those really helped us out in the first one, and now our kind of half a second one. So thank you, and subscribe and hit the notification bell down below if you haven't yet. And as always, tips, comments and questions are very welcome. We love hearing from you guys, so please drop down in the comment below. See you next time.